It's so incredible to see the connections and the friendships that build up. The feedback is so tangible as well because you see it every other Saturday when these things happen, or just as someone saying thank you. I had no friends. In my language, Zulu, there's a direct translation to a quote that says, if someone's already walked the journey, then why not just like look at their footsteps instead of like trying to reinvent the wheel? I remember at the time it felt really scary, but the scarier option was just doing the normal thing. So it was like a choice between like the scarier option and the scariest option. Hey Ben, my name is Khosi. I am a runner. I always find that I'm always quite skeptical saying that, but most runners are anyway. But I am from Johannesburg, South Africa, and I've been in the UK for 5 years. Moved in COVID, so it was new country, new job, new pandemic, and it was a really scary time to come into the UK in general. But I think coming into the space, and it was such an uncertain time, but also just going back to what was familiar to me, which was movement, exercise, running. When I was struggling, my dad was like, "Well, just run, find your people that run." And so, yeah, it was our thing, me and him. And then when I moved to the UK, yeah, I found people that like what I like, and that was so good for me because it really just helped London become a livable city as well. So, yeah, 5 years later, started my own community, Sexy Pace Run Crew. It's been incredible. I run with other run crews as well. Nova Run Club here in Wembley, and that was my first experience of the running culture in London. So yeah, it's been an incredible journey. So many milestones just from this year alone, just from having like done that brave thing to leave your home country and just do what was considered unthinkable. So it's been an incredible journey. I love the city. The plan was only to just be here for 2 years, but hey, still having a good time, right? So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
In terms of that, you called it a brave decision, and it is an incredibly brave decision. Why was that decision made to come from Joburg over to London?
I remember at the time it felt really scary, but the scarier option was just doing the normal thing. So it was like a choice between like uh, the scarier option and the scariest option. And I remember speaking to my dad, and he was like, "Well, you've done everything. You've done your school. You ticked all the boxes here. So you could just stay and find out what happens next, or you could just explore. And so that's what I did. So it was more curiosity, I would say. There wasn't anything that I was looking for. It was just a healthy curiosity. It was a bit like, what if? And I believe in reversible decisions. So this felt like a reversible decision in the sense that I thought, well, if it doesn't work out, I could still just go to my mom's couch and then I can be like, well, the UK was good. I tried. So it felt like a risk that I was taking, but it also felt reversible in case things didn't work out.
I think that's so important as well, because there'll be people listening to this that, are risk adverse. I think sometimes in my life I've definitely been risk averse, but I've never really thought of it like that. Like, a lot of decisions are reversible. So it's like,
Yeah.
take that step, give it a
Yeah.
go, and then you can always turn around and go back. It's not like you failed, it's just that that part hasn't worked, kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah, it's a bit like learning new information that you didn't know at the time and then changing, especially the younger you are, the more of these reversible decisions we should be making so we can find out what we're meant to be doing. And then as time goes by, you can make less and less of them. But I don't think you should be making less of them. It's up to you. But
You mentioned running, and it kind of being yours and your dad's thing. When did movement and running specifically, I guess, first become part of your life?
oof, as long as I can remember, because I think my earliest memory was my dad saying, "Put on your running shoes, let's go for a run," and my mom just being like, "Leave her alone." But we used to. So my dad used to work for the Department of Sports in South Africa, so he used to do a lot of races as well, a lot of races that were in Joburg, and so he used to force us to do all these races as well. But I also remember being on holiday, and I used to go on holiday with my family, but this time around I went on holiday with my friend's family, and I realized that they weren't running in the morning. So I just thought, oh, so you guys don't run first thing in the morning on holiday? That's not normal for families to do. And they're like, no, just chill. So he almost kind of made it like our default setting. And my mom was into like aerobics and Pilates. So she was very into a different kind of movement, but it was a really good way for us to all bond as well. So he got into my head. Sometimes I still hear his voice. Well, when I run with him, he still says it, but when I'm here, he says, "You're too slow. You're too slow. You need to pick up the pace." But when I went home 2 years ago, I ran with him, and then he was finally like, "Okay, you know what? Your pace is picked up. It's fine. You win."
I love that. And the relatability to that as well. My dad always used to say to me, lengthen your stride. It's just such a weird thing to say, but that
That
was
is
his thing, like
bizarre.
lengthen your stride, like when I was running. And then I remember going home and he worked on a farm and I was running past the farm he was working on um, when I went home a few years ago.
Yeah.
And I got back afterwards and he said, "Your stride's lengthened now." I was like, "Oh, I've never
That's
felt more
such a
proud of
win.
myself."
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's no better feeling. Like you can win all the races and the medals, but when your dad says you got it, finally, it's the most incredible feeling. So yeah, fully relate to that.
In terms of sexy pace, I want to talk about that because that's been an amazing journey. I want to go back to where you thought, I could start up a crew here. Like I feel like this is something I could do to bring people together.
Mhm.
Where was that idea initially born, I guess? And then what
Mm.
was the process from there to being like, okay, I'm actually going to do
This is a thing. So it wasn't
it?
meant to be a thing. I always say it started by accident. It was more of a social experiment more than anything because I remember after L- London Marathon 2023, so last year, all my friends thought I was some elite athlete. They thought I was like Uncle Kipchoge or Mo Farah, but they just thought that I'm so fast and then they couldn't run with me because also I had been away for the block where I was almost like not going out as much and not being with my friends as much. And so they had this assumption that I've now become this really incredible elite runner. So in order to almost win my friends back, I said, let's run. I can't run as much now because I've just come out of this training block. So I promise I won't run too fast. It'll be at a sexy pace, which is a common phrase used in the running scene anyway. I don't want to say that. I came up with the phrase. It's a phrase you use when you're not trying to run too fast, especially in South Africa as well. We use that phrase. So I said to them, we'll run at a sexy pace. I promise you, the aim is not to do too much. It'll be comfortable, and then we'll have a coffee and a croissant after. But it was just mainly to win my friends back, but also to try get some miles in myself, like time on feet, and just do a few zone 2 runs as well. So there was a method to the whole thing.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, I'm running with my friends, which is a win because we get to socialize, but I also low key get to do what I still want to do, which is double wins. It's like, yes, right. Okay. Happened. It was just like on a WhatsApp group. There was a few of us. I remember the first day I put something on Instagram like, hey, does anyone want to come for a run in Hyde Park? And I think about 6 people showed up. And I guess in my mind, again, it's the reversible decision, right? If nobody comes around, I'll still run, and then I could just ditch this whole thing and say, well, I'll try. I've tried. So um, put it on Instagram, invited some of my friends. There were about 6 of us. And then a few people saw the run because I posted a picture. And it's so important that you post pictures as well because one of my good friends, Andre Coggins, he's a founder of Mafia Moves.
Yeah. He's been
Um,
on actually.
yeah, I saw. I
Yeah,
was
yeah, yeah.
listening to his episode actually
Legend.
yesterday. But he was like, Corsi, just take pictures of the journey and, post about it, whether or not there's 3 or 4 people that came round, just post. As soon as I posted, more people said, hey, let us know next time, because I realized there was that missing link where people wanted to run, but they just wanted that sort of like couch to 5K style where you don't feel like you're getting left behind, but also it could just be fun. Like
Yeah.
we had speakers, we were just having a jaw. Really, we didn't really know what we were doing. It was low key like a dance party that looked like a run party because we were just doing loops in Hyde Park, and I was doing my best to make it as fun as possible for everyone. That way, they can come back. But that I really wanted to just like make the whole running experience really, really, really fun because, of course, there's too many horror stories where someone has gone to a run club and didn't feel like they could belong. So, fast forward friends of friends. And now it's like, I remember talking to my friend Rosanna, like, should we make it a thing? Should we make it an Instagram, club thing? Should I put it on the gram, create a profile? And she was like, yeah, do it. And so, yeah, it just became an incredible ripple effect. Friends started inviting friends. And for me, that means so much when someone invites their friend, because they have so much trust in what we've built that they know that whoever they bring along that is a beginner will be taken care of. And for me, that is the best vote of confidence, because it means you trust us. We'll still, you'll still experience a good time. And ever since then, I've done so. I always make the effort to try and bring it back to what it is, because a lot of the girls are getting faster. We've done Vitality 10K, we've done Big Half. So there's some speedy, and sometimes, like, guys, it's not speedy pace, it's sexy pace. So even with that happening, I still go back to, hey, this is a social run, it's a very slow run. So if you want to be a bit faster, then I usually give people like extra loops in Hyde Park as well. So it's it's like a social experiment that surprises me every time, because it was never the plan to build the community. I always just wanted people to not feel that felt feeling I felt when I moved over and I didn't have any friends. So it was always meant to be social. But I'm so glad that I didn't listen to that inner voice that said it's not going to work. You're not from here. You won't know anyone. No one's going to come. But now we've got 200 plus people that are just really keen to do brave things. So it's been amazing. It's been amazing.
And yeah, if you're listening to this and you don't follow the Instagram, I would say the vibes on that Instagram page are phenomenal. So I would definitely recommend you do that. It was interesting that you mentioned like I didn't kind of want people to feel like what I felt like when I moved over. What's it like for you now, seeing those connections get made when when you're down there, when you're on these runs? That must be quite special.
I feel like a proud mom. Sometimes I'll overhear the girls like, hey, let's do coffee after this. Or I'll watch my Instagram stories and I'll see two girls that met at Sexy Pace and now they're, on a night out and they're, at a book club or something. And I always like, hey, if you're on a night out, no more shots, you've got run club tomorrow. And then obviously they're like, what's this? But it's so incredible to see the connections and the friendships that build up just because of that. And it's also the biggest almost feedback. The feedback is so tangible as well, because you see it every other Saturday when these things happen, or just as someone saying thank you. I had no friends, and now I know if I've come here, I've met a few people, and I've built those connections, and it goes a long way to have that, because sometimes it can feel like you don't know your people or you can't find them. But I think running is such a barrier free way to just find people that like what
Yeah.
you like, right? So yeah, it's I feel like a proud mom.
It must be so strange because sometimes I would imagine when you're like the figurehead of something like this, you're at a run club every other week that is a lot of people. There's a lot going on. You do that,
Mm.
you have your coffee, you have your croissant, and then you come back to your flat and you're in your flat solo and you're like, did that just happen? That was a lot.
Yeah, yeah. That was the feeling actually, especially after our wellness fest recently. So a part of trying new things again was I decided, what if we do something outside of running, because it's about running but it's also not about running, right? And I always say to the girls, like, we're at 60 pace, it's a run club slash dance club slash vibes, but you're not here just for running, you're here to build connections. So I always um want to try new things to build up people's wellness and give them tools to navigate what is a crazy city, I think. So we did this wellness fest and we've now got a committee, thank goodness, because I can't do this by myself. Like you said, it's a lot to do, but we created a wellness fest that wasn't running for once. It was just about ways to cope with your mental health. We got Dr. Joyce as well to give everyone some health tips. We got my friend Dr. Amani who gave everyone some tips about how to um, deal with difficult situations and almost like take care of your mental health. And we also had like a little dance party slash aerobics at the end. It was so loud, and there was like 70 plus girls there, and it was I'm grateful to have been sponsored by On for that, because to pull that off was like major. But yeah, it was loud, it was boom boom boom, and it was like, so like I stood there and I was like, okay, this feels like a concert. It feels yeah, we're doing wellness, but yeah, it's a bit crazy. And then, like you said, after that, packed up our stuff, came back to the flat, and I was like, so, and I talk to myself a lot, so I'm like, so yeah, did that. What's next?
Better have some dinner.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's kind of strange sometimes. I
yeah.
feel like that after races sometimes, when you've just been over in New York. We'll touch on that in a sec. But like when you do one of these big trips, or you go away and you run a marathon, or you do a triathlon, or any sort of race, and then you get back and you're like,
Mhm.
ah, right, what do I do now then? I'm not entirely sure. It's always a strange period.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm an extrovert, so I'm really energized by people.
Yeah.
Um, so I know that feeling of just coming back and just thinking, okay, what's next? So I've tried to, find ways to not try and chase the next thing all the time as well, because you don't want it to be detrimental. But I absolutely love being around people, especially positive people, genuinely people that are curious and have the same like interest, out of like, okay, let's try this, why not, let's just give it a go, who knows what could happen. So yeah, it can be really difficult to navigate, but it's all about finding the next thing, right?
It's all about finding the next thing. We mentioned kind of like community, and you mentioned On as well. Obviously, that's a big part of your life now as well, On and that ambassador program. What was that like? Kind of getting the nods to be a part of that, and how did that relationship kind of blossom? I guess.
That was a really weird, because in my mind things like that don't happen. Like, I always just thought, well, I'm an everyday runner, and on this like this really big brand that I just thought doesn't work with people like me. And by people like me, I don't even mean it about race or anything. I just mean everyday runners, people that don't run competitively. If anything, if I can stop enough points in a race and have enough dance parties, that is my PB. Like, London Marathon was, my dad was like, 'cause my Strava was in zigzags like last year in 2023, and my dad's competitive, right? So he was like, what were you doing? Like, greeting everyone? And like, are you Nelson Mandela? Do you have to stop everywhere? Do you have to? I was like, yeah, that's part of it. Like, you have to dance everywhere. So the type of runner that I am, it's so sort of like getting the most experience out of it. And that's why New York was also incredible, because it was like, how much of this can I take in all at once? Just the experience. And so working with On, I remember one of my brothers in the running scene. His name is Leon Parks. He's the founder of No Run Club. I've actually got a lot of mentors in the scene, which is such a blessing, because doing all this, it feels like a safer way to start, because I'm always asking questions.
Yeah.
And they are also there to give advice in case something goes wrong. Tasha from Black Girls Do Run and Tyler from Outrunners. It's just sort of people that I'll, ask questions to, but equally, they'll always advise me about, what to do in certain instances. Anyway, I digress. So I remember, because Leon was part of On at the time, it sort of recommended me as someone that would be good for the ambassador program. But equally, I didn't believe it. I didn't know. So a message came from me when Andre was at a community lead at the time and said, "Hey, On wants to work with you." So I didn't believe the message. I was like, "No way." I think I ignored the message for a few days, because I just thought, this must be fake news or
Yeah.
something. And then, yeah, eventually he said, just send me your email. And then I sent email, and I remember the subject of the email was, On is not kidding. So I was like, oh, that's all right, so we're here now. But I didn't understand as well what it meant to be an ambassador, because at the time I don't even think Sexy Pace had formed. I was just, running and posting some of my reels and just sharing the experience of what it's like to live in London, and just do all these cool things that I was seeing happening at the time. Because I think in Joburg, running is a thing, but it's not as cool to be a runner as well. It was just running with my dad, so nobody else thought it was cool. But in London, running is cool, and I mean now it's cool everywhere else. But like the whole like speaker, like the lights that you go there, it's just like, oh my god, what are we doing? Are we running? So that sort of thing, just I was just soaking that up and going to different run clubs. But as soon as I got the opportunity to be part of the program, it was yeah, it opened my eyes up to the fact that you don't need to do anything other than just being your best self, your authentic self. It was the best vote of confidence to know. And I know that on were watching me for a long time before I got that message. And I was posting for quite a while, just random things about, what I like and movement. And yeah, just kept doing that, kept creating. But I don't consider myself much of a creator. I'd say I'm more of like a community builder. My personality type is a campaigner, so very extroverted. I can get anyone to do anything if you give me enough time. I'll convince them. So I definitely love bringing people together, and that's the sort of thing I bring to on, in the sense that some people are creators or influencers. I'm definitely on the community builder side of things. And yeah, like I said, to even do the wellness festival, we wouldn't have been able to without On's contribution. And small things like when you have a female community and people need bag drop or people need facilities, it's just been incredible to be able to say, oh, just come to the store and just drop your bags. And that is something that is less of a barrier, because now it means less excuses. So again, working with beginner runners, it's like, oh, I can't come, Khosi. I've just, yeah, I don't know, where would I leave my bags, because I need to meet a friend after. Okay, cool. There's bag drop. What else? Oh, I don't know where I leave my water bottle. I need water. Oh yeah, we've got water. Cool. What do you need? Oh, I don't have enough shoes. Oh, we've got shoe try-ons. Cool. What? And then it's like, oh, okay. So all your excuses on what's your next?
Like, I'm
Uh,
trying to make an excuse here.
yeah.
And you're like, no, you're coming.
Hmm. So having that partnership allowed to remove a lot more of the
Yeah.
excuses, right? So yeah, the support's been great. I love being part of the On team. It's just, yeah, even the friends I've made part of the ambassador program, top tier, top tier.
I do want to touch on what you were mentioning there about asking questions, because I think some people are really scared to do that. A lot of people in business or in work or relationships or whatever space, if they don't know the answer to something, they'll either forget about it or they'll pretend that they do know the answer to something, and
Mhm.
something will go wrong down the line. But it sounds like you're not afraid of asking questions. All these leaders in community that and have been mentored by, you have them to ask questions. How important is that, to ask things that you don't know about?
Well, I think I always see it as I have no choice but to ask.
Yeah.
It's a bit like how some entrepreneurs will say you need to ask people that are like 2 3 years along in the journey than you are. Like I think the care I have for the girls that run supersedes any sort of fear about asking questions. It's almost like I step into a whole new personality where I'm fearless. I appear fearless because I care so much about people's well-being in running. So I will always ask because in my language Zulu, there's a direct translation to a quote that says, "If someone's already walked the journey, then why not just like look at their footsteps instead of like trying to reinvent the wheel?" So you don't want to make mistakes just purely because you didn't ask. So I'll always ask purely because it would mean I would make less rookie errors. And knowing me, I am bound to make rookie errors because I'm so eager. I'm always protecting myself and protecting the girls. So just small things like planning routes and safety and asking about that. It's in my best interest and everyone else's best interest that I ask what is the best way to go about doing things. So yeah, and then there's other things that I'm quite happy to not ask questions or permission. Just we'll figure it out as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
But yeah, I think
Ask for
it's in
forgiveness
everyone's.
later.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
That's always a good one.
yeah.
I do really love that quote, and that's something that's applicable to all running, right?
Hmm.
Like that's applicable to everybody's journey. There is kind of this pathway that has been trodden by so many people
Mhm.
already kind of follow their journey, do what they do, and success will come. I think sometimes
Yeah.
people do overcomplicate it, don't they?
Hmm. Because the problems are the same. I think sometimes we think we're so unique that nobody's got the issues that I have, or something that I'm going through is unsolvable. But you'll find that everyone has experienced the
Yeah,
same thing to some, to greater or less degree. I remember speaking to Tasha about something that I was experiencing at the run club that was just specific, that felt specific to us. And then she said, "Oh yeah, that happened to us 2 years ago. Like, don't worry about it. Just make sure you stand your ground and make sure that you are, being honest and speaking your truth and make it about the girls and stand up for the girls." And so I think sometimes we tend to think that this is a thing that's only happening to me, and that's why maybe it's difficult to ask for help as well, and the fear, like you said, of being seen as not knowing. But of course, I don't know. Like, 60 Pace has only been around for a year. I don't know what I'm doing, even now. So I'll always lead with, I don't know what I'm doing, but here's what I think. What do you think? And that's that.
we're coming to the end of 2024, which feels a bit mad to be honest. And
Crazy, right?
I, yeah, it's absolutely mad. And there's been so much that has happened this year. If you just go on your Instagram and like scroll back to the start of the year, you're like, oh yeah, cause she's done a bit this year, man. There's been a bit that's going on. It feels a little bit harsh to say what are your highlights of this year, but when you
Oof.
look back at this year in, let's say, mid 2025, like what are you going to reflect on 2024 being?
Well, it feels like I've lived 5 years just this year alone with everything that's happened. Let's think. New York was definitely the one of my core memories because running through all these boroughs, all the rap lyrics I used to listen to, all the sitcoms, and it's like, oh, Brooklyn, the Bronx, Queens. So it felt really cool to be running through there, although it was really hard. Um, I mean, it was such an incredible experience, and I went down there with Strava and just meeting all the other creators and being part of Team Strava was um again confirmation that just like doing your own thing and putting your little content out there does go a long way as well. So I think New York was is always going to be the one of the, what yeah, up there for 2024, and the wellness festival, just because I didn't know that I was able to pull that off at all, from organizing the event, venues, making sure that everyone had a good experience. It felt like I was a bit of an event planner, but the why was always there. I didn't figure out the how until the very last minute when I got the opportunity to pitch to On, and then they said yes. But the why was always there, and I remember I scribbled it on my notebook maybe like 12 months before, and I always knew that I wanted to do something other than running, to include as part of our running, but to have a wellness thing. So seeing that come to life. And when I was there, I was like, oh, I remember when I scribbled that we need to do a yoga session, and I scribbled that we need this and we need goodie bags, and to see it all there and all the other brands getting on board, it was just amazing. And of course, Sexy Pace's first birthday, that was around June. And that was, yeah, that was so surreal. I'm very bad at taking things in because I'm
I
always
know,
just
yeah.
like, what is going on?
I can
Um,
I can
that
almost
was,
I can
yeah,
almost see as we're speaking about it, like you thinking about the year that's been, and
yeah.
almost digesting it, and it is difficult. And I've said this before on the podcast, and it's kind of a common theme that I come across is people that have got inspiring stories or who are figureheads in the community often, and Andre did it, we spoke about it actually, don't take a step back and look at like what they've created and the impact they've had, I guess. And I think sometimes until some bloke stands in front of them on a microphone and says,
How do you do
hey, have a think, and they kind of like, and you've just did it,
it?
you're like, oh yeah, like it's been quite a busy year actually,
Yeah,
like quite a
actually.
lot's going on.
Yeah, I've just it's so if some of it's only clicking now that all of it was
Yeah,
2024. That is wild. Um, but yeah, I think because we're so used to making things about everybody else, and like you know, going leading with that, like, okay, how's everyone else first? That we don't really like take a step back and say, wow, that was pretty cool. Let's do it again soon.
Doing it again, then what does 2025 have in store for you?
Oof. I was thinking about that actually because I had the opportunity to run London Marathon again, but I'm not running London Marathon. I just want to give opportunity to other ladies in the community that want to run. So I will be cheering and making sure that people can hear me before they see me. So I'll be really, really going at it. I'm someone that does things. It's either yeah, if it's not, it's yeah, it's very all or nothing sometimes. Like if I do
Yeah.
something, I'm such a perfectionist, I want to do it well, so I will probably cheer a bit much. I have been thinking about the trails a lot. My
Okay.
friend Rosanna has been throwing links my way with a few trail runs, which is quite a scary thing for me because I've only done short trails, but I want to do something new. I miss being a beginner at something, and not to say I'm an expert, but I miss that feeling of just like those like incremental wins at each session. Like now I'll go for my runs and I'll just be like, okay, like I feel alright, I've got my endorphins, start the day. But like that struggle in the beginning when you do something new and it's uncomfortable and you come back again and you want to give up. I miss that. So I wanna do something completely different, and whether that's like a Pilates class or more, yoga or something. But I think right now I'm thinking about the trails a lot. Um, and then who knows? Maybe we'll do a bigger wellness fest. I don't know. Hopefully, On is listening and they'll increase the budget.
Cough, cough, nudge, nudge. Come on, send that email.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I uh,
Um,
I feel like we'll finish with this because I want to take you back because you've had unique experiences over your life of moving to London and kind of from Joburg and having to kind of set up a new life almost and begin a community. And I'm sure there are people that are listening to this that are in a similar situation, maybe not quite as extreme, but they've moved somewhere new or they don't feel like they belong where they are quite yet because they haven't found their people. What would be your advice to them if somebody is feeling like they haven't found their people quite yet? What would you say to them?
Oof. I'll say something that my dad said to me when I wasn't sure London was for me. And I actually booked a one-way flight. And I said to him, I'm not going back there. It's horrible. I'm not fitting in. I don't have any friends. And I mean, as someone who's an extrovert, I have tried. I've spoken to people at the office. So I thought I tried. And he said to me, have you given it a fair chance? And so that would be something I would leave with someone, or would ask someone if they were struggling to find their place or their people in a new city. Have you truly given it a fair chance? And by fair chance, it when he said that to me, I remember thinking, I don't know if I've given London a fair chance. Yes, I've spoken to a few people, but have I really like made the effort? Because sometimes we think it'll be easy, or it'll just be as simple as going to a coffee shop and then things happening. But uh, bringing the question back to yourself to ask yourself if you've really given things a good attempt will put you into the perspective of, okay, maybe I could be putting myself out of my comfort zone. There's so much on the other side of just trying one more time. So it's something that still sticks with me with everything, not just like making friends or running. Is, have I really given this a fair chance, or am I complaining that nobody is going out of their way to be friends with me or to come to the community? And that will always bring me back to a place of humility, and then say, okay, let's give it another go. So yeah, I think life's just about giving things a fair chance, because who knows what might happen on the other side of that.
I'll say this to finish up, Crossy. Your dad sounds like a very wise man. There's been a few
Legend.
times he's popped up. He sounds like a legend.
Yeah, he is. Sometimes.